This is Mr. Schoolhouse, and the schoolhouse is jumping. Guys, welcome to Lessons with Mr. Schoolhouse. Guys, make sure that you tell all your friends, all your family about Lessons with Mr. Schoolhouse. All right, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. All right, guys, today isn't about a graduation and cap. It's about honoring every lesson that brought me here, right? I will be walking across the stage, excuse me, on May 10th. I will be walking across the stage on May 10th, and I am so excited, right? But we're talking about the journey today. And I want to start things off with my childhood and what it was like for me growing up, right? So for me personally, in my community, I grew up in a low income community, which means I went to a low income school, which is known as a Title I school. For some educators that may be watching this video, that is considered as a Title I school, free reduced lunch, you know. Um, and I can recall a certain experience of raising my hand, right? This experience, I raised my hand and asked a question in first grade. And all my peers and students laughed at me, made jokes about me because I asked a question in class. And at that time, I said I will suppress every question that I have because I don't want this experience to happen again. As I got older, one of the things that I realized from my personal opinion and my experience in my community, right? If you were someone who was a scholar, you had like a prestigious mindset of wanting to be successful academically. If you made all A's, you made principal lists or honor roll, you had this desire to want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer. If you had those dreams, right, and you were a scholar, no one really cared, right, amongst peers, right? As kids, we just did not care about that. Now, of course, they were celebrated at award ceremonies, but after that, I mean, no one cared. But if you were a student or you were someone who disrespected the teacher, you were a class clown, you got into a lot of fights and altercations with the kids amongst us as peers when we were kids, right? I'm a grown adult now. But if you were involved in those things, then you were celebrated for it. If you played sports, specifically football or basketball, and you were good at it, oh, you were celebrated for it. Everybody loved you. Oh, if you were in the game, oh, everybody loved you. If you won the fight, everybody loved you, right? And I fell into that trap. I would get into fights. Half the time, I was fighting just to be seen. I was the one that was jealous or envious of my peers who would get awards, principals lists, or dean's lists. I was the one that was jealous because deep down inside, I had this desire to want to learn. I had this desire to want to learn. I had to hide my feeling, my feelings of um wanting to be successful because in my community, you just weren't praised for being a scholar outside of award ceremonies, outside of that, you know. But the real battle, the one that tested everything in me along this journey, came years later when I faced a loss that shattered my world completely. I want to talk about my mother. She is my motivation. She is my why. And I will say that, you know, when we first found out that my mother was sick and we took her to the hospital, the doctors ran some tests on her and they diagnosed her with kidney failure. Sent her home. As a family, we realized that she was not getting better and her body was actually deteriorating. So as a family, we sent her to a different hospital. The doctors ran some tests. They discovered that she had stage 4 cancer. That was devastating. That was devastating for me that she had stage 4 cancer, right? And at 20 years old, I don't think I understood the magnitude of stage 4 cancer, right? Of course, I'm older now, and we all know that, once you're on your last stage when it comes to cancer, your time is running out. It's only a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of days, who knows? But time is running out, right? And I would tell her, hey, you're going to beat this stage 4 cancer. You're going to overcome this. But I was just naive to how critical her situation was. I was naive. I wasn't educated on it. So when she did pass, it did feel like it was unexpected. When someone has stage 4 cancer, in most cases, there are some miracles, but in most cases, you probably want to prepare yourself for what's about to take place. And that's what I did not do. But I would also tell her, right, when she was dealing with that critical condition, I would say, hey, mom, I am going to finish college and get my 4-year degree. I'm going to finish this degree because she meant so much to me. Her sacrifice, her love, her compassion, her care for other people, she modeled what kindness looks like. She modeled what emotional intelligence looked like in real time. My mom is my hero, and she still is with me every step of the way. Although she's now no longer here physically, right? And what I will say is I want to give you guys an example of how kind she was to other people when she was here on this earth. You know, I'm just being transparent. I grew up on food stamps. I grew up on food stamps, right? I have no shame in where I come from. I can recall I had a friend, and they did my friend, his family, they did not have any food to eat, right? And so my mom would use her food stamps to get that family something to eat. I said, man, that is so kind of her. She spoke life into me. Let me give you an example. You know, I used to tell her that, hey, I want to go to the NFL, and she really didn't believe in that dream. And that's okay because I wasn't a 5-star athlete anyway, if I'm just being honest. But what she did believe in is that I could be a sports broadcaster for the NFL. So although I'm not sports broadcasting, I'm still in a line with communication. I'm still using my voice to make a difference and make an impact, just in a different way. But she spoke that over my life. And so when I say the loss of my mother hurt, I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. Man, that grief hit harder than anything. I'm telling you, I was not clinically depressed, but I was sad every day, crying every day, going through suicidal thoughts where I no longer wanted to be here. So the loss of my mother, that hit. It felt like I lost a blueprint for my future because I no longer had that emotional motherly love, someone to call, someone to talk to, someone to aggravate. I used to aggravate my mom. Someone that would just listen. She would just listen. You see I could talk. She would just listen to me run my mouth. So I no longer had that. So I felt like everything was pointless at this point in my life, right? Um, and after losing my mom, college became a battlefield I wasn't ready to fight, right? I think that, in that point in my life, I don't think I understood how disciplined and how mature you have to be to get your work done because no one is there to carry you through it. I did not have my mother, right? And also teachers are not getting on you about doing your work. The professors are saying, "Hey, here's the work. If you don't do it, you just fail." Right? And so I was going through a lot, you know. So I actually end up getting on academic probation after losing my mother, right? So that year of, the year 2015, I lost my mother. I got onto academic probation. My academic advisor told me that first it was suspension, that, my grades were low. They said, "Hey, come back next semester. You can't come this semester because of due to your grades, they're low." I had to write a letter, explain the hardship of losing my mother, so they let me back in. And that semester, I had to get my grades up, right? I wasn't able to get my grades up to a good average that they were expecting me to have. And then I was told that, okay, you have to wait a year now. So after that semester, I got kicked out again. So I'm just on this on and off cycle with school. I'm in school, I'm out of school, I'm in school, I'm out of school. There were times that I doubted that if I would ever graduate, life was just hard. It was hard. Again, the weight was on my shoulders of losing my mom, dealing with academic probation, not sure if I would even finish college, right? But in the middle of all this chaos, there was something inside me that refused to completely give up, right? I was resilient, as you can see. I'm walking across the stage. But what was that turning point for me, right? Because I'm here, but what was that turning point? You know, I think the biggest things is there's a couple of things that took place, right? One is clarity. When I first initially started school, I changed my major a multitude of times, right? From computer science, from English, from wanting to be a math teacher to psychology. I changed it so many times. So at that time, I had no clarity. This time, I had clarity. But how did I get clarity? I had to live life a little bit, and I discovered my purpose in education when I was volunteering at a school. And I was mentoring these young men, and I realized that, man, I could really make a difference in this space. I started to see the young males change over time, right? They started to take school more serious. I was recognized by the assistant superintendent for the great work that I was doing in the community just by volunteering. I was also recognized by the principal. It was a good time. I really enjoyed myself, and I had to ask myself, okay, this is purpose work. This is purposeful. This is meaningful. This is me serving my community. I need to put myself in a position to where I could do this full time because I can't live off just volunteering for free. I have to pay bills, right? So that was one thing is getting clarity and getting focused on, a single path, which was for me is school psychology, right? I will also say that the next thing is exposure and influence. Exposure and influence. And here's what I mean by that. I'll share personal experience, right? At the time, I was dating my girlfriend, which is now my lovely wife, right? She was in school to become a nurse. I will witness her study. I will witness her read. I will witness her go to class. when we were hanging out. And I said, man, you're disciplined, you're studious. I want to be like you. You inspire me. You have influenced me. That level of exposure was amazing because we're around the same age. I'm just a year older than her, and I saw how driven she was, how focused she was. I wanted to do the same thing. It really did inspire me, right? That spark changed in me for me. Um, I used my resources, right? So we talked about the turning points, but like practically what did I do for me to get here, right? I started with using resources, right? I will say this, vulnerability. Let me say it again. Vulnerability. I had to dismantle everything that I was taught, everything that I was exposed to in my community. And when I got to this academic setting, I knew that, okay, I need to ask questions in class. What happened to me? The trauma that I experienced in first grade, it hurt. But it's not the time for me to be reflecting on my trauma and letting that get me down. I need to rise to the occasion. So I start asking questions in class, right? I wanted to be there. I had this desire of understanding the psychological process of how people think, how people process information, understanding how culture influences behavior, right? In the study of psychology, there has been multiple experiments that has shown these things, how culture influences behavior, how our brain are processing all of these different thoughts, how trauma can affect people, how trauma can affect behavior, right? Psychology is just simply the study of people. And so if I'm here coming to class and my financial aid is paying me to be here, I need to take advantage of this and walk in my purpose and be the scholar that I know that I am, right? So asking for help, going to tutoring and studying, right? Studying, building that discipline, understanding that look, if I want to finish through, it's going to take discipline and motivation, right? Because motivation is great. It gives you that drive that you need, but motivation is just a temporary feeling. It runs dry. So you need both. You need discipline and you need both motivation. Both are imperative along your college journey. So those things were imperative for me, right? So now I want to show the process, right? I want to talk about the process of what it was like, in terms of like the long nights of studying when no one was watching, right? The sacrifice. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. College is a sacrifice, right? I've looked at the dropout rates of people dropping out of college, and it's pretty high. It's pretty high. It is a real sacrifice. Um, there were nights that I was up late at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning doing a paper, a literature review, to be exact. Exams. There were times that exams took me 2 hours, right? Um, Projects. I could go on and on. But those were late nights. That's a sacrifice. That level of grind, that level of commitment was something that I was not accustomed to, right? So I had to get accustomed to that. I had to get used to that. But again, those were the long nights that helped me get here to where I am today. Um, Social life. Now, for me, I'm a very sociable guy, right? So it's not to say that I did not have a social life at all in college, but my social life went down tremendously. It could get lonely. I've grown past that college age of 18 to 21, so I'm a grown man. I don't at this point in my life, or at least when I was going through college, right, to finish through, I did not have time to attend different social events. I stayed almost an hour away from campus. When I did not stay on campus. Did I want to be involved? Of course. The social energy in me just said, "Hi, everybody, come. I want to talk to you. I want to have conversation with you. I want to hang out with you." But I did not have the time. I had the desire to play flag football. I wanted to play flag football so bad, but I had to quit after the first game because I did not have the time. That's a real sacrifice, right? That was something that I did not learn in high school when they were trying to prepare us for college. That I will say, I think people don't touch on it enough is it is a real social life. You will have to sacrifice comfort. This is not no just this is not just motivation fluff. Like I'm telling you because I really lived it. You really will have to sacrifice comfort. You will have to sacrifice social life. There were times that I could not hang out with my friends or go to football games because I was doing my work. Right. So just understanding that the long nights, the sacrifice, if you really want this, you really want to graduate college, that is what comes with it. You have to do whatever it takes. Um, the little wins, right? Along the journey, I celebrated myself, right? And I think that that part is important. I don't want to miss that part. If I got a good grade or if I passed the exam, there were times that I treated myself, right? And we all know that psychologically speaking, when we when we do something that is great, right? And then we celebrate ourselves, and then you will associate that behavior with something positive, right? So let me this is what I mean essentially, right? Is that I get a good grade, then I treat myself. So every time that I get a good grade, I associate it with an award, right? So now that's a positive behavior correlation. My brain is saying, "Hey, you did something great." I might push myself to study really, really hard so that I can reward myself later. So that is imperative. That's imperative to create that great association. So your brain is like alert. Hey, it's time to award myself for the good things that that you're doing that you're accomplishing, right? So I think that's very important. I definitely celebrated myself. Man, the meaning, the meaning of this graduation, right? The meaning of this graduation is profound, right? This degree does not just symbolize, education. Although it's important, right? This degree does not just symbolize education. This degree does not just symbolize that, hey, I understand how people work. I understand the psychological process of how people process information, how trauma can affect people, how important it is to be emotionally aware, how culture affects human behavior. Although the degree does symbolize some of those concepts, right? To be specific, it also symbolizes perseverance, right? It also symbolizes the commitment I made to my younger self and the dreams that I dared to keep alive, right? This degree also symbolizes the promise that I made to my mother. It means so much to me. That means more than anything, than all the accolades or the education behind it. Yes, that is great, but it has its place. But to walk across that stage is it's not just for me, but it's for my mother. It's for the younger version of me that dared to dream, right? These degrees, I mean, that's not what I meant to say. I don't have degrees yet, right? This degree is not just mine. No, no, no. It belongs to every version of me that refused to quit. It belongs to my mother. It belongs to every dream we whispered about together. Every dream that we whispered, you know, this degree symbolizes so much um, that it's sometimes hard for me to put in words, you know. I'm getting a little emotional, just a little bit, because this has really been a journey in the making it. Like this has really been a process. Everything that I've mentioned so far, that I've said so far, happened right in real time, right? So you may be asking, right? This journey was a great journey, ups and downs, but we're here. So what's next for Mr. Schoolhouse, right? My philosophy is, hey, true education never ends. Every day is another lesson, another opportunity to grow. So I will continue to grow. I will continue to flourish. I will continue to prosper. You know, my goal is to be a school psychologist, right? So that requires a specialist, an education specialist degree, and I'm looking forward to that endeavor, and I hope to see what that entails, right? I want to continue to speak, mentor, teach, be a voice for those who are still somewhere in the middle of their fight, right? Hey, this has been a journey. This has been a journey, man. And I just want to take the time to thank my family, my mentors, everyone that believed in me. I thank myself, my past self, for not giving up, right? And I just want to take the time for every educator or every young person that's watching this video to never give up on your dreams, to never lose hope. For those students who struggle academically, they don't have a high IQ. They're not, what is known to be everybody's a scholar in my opinion, but I'm going based off, your typical all A's, the student who catches on the fastest. Hey, for those students who don't, for those students who struggle, for those students who have a hard time grasping the concept, don't give up on those students, right? Because those are the ones that need the most attention. Those are the ones who need the most love. If you're an educator, just know that you do make a difference. There has been many educators that I did not mention today that has made a difference in my life. That has helped me become the man that I am today. So my encouragement to you is to never give up, never lose hope. We need you. Students, never give up, never lose hope. Keep fighting for your education. Show up. You are a scholar. In my opinion, everyone's a scholar. Everyone has the ability to be prestigious. Everyone has the ability to be studious. It's all in us, right? Right? This is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. Lessons with Mr. Schoolhouse. And the best lessons are still being written. This is Mr. Schoolhouse. Thank you for watching this video. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode with all your friends and family. Peace, and we out here.